Chapter 111. Even Wenzel from the neighboring school couldn't resist sneaking in a couple of rounds while treating Earl to a meal. He even asked if Earl had joined the ranks of Panzer Saga. In just 1 month, this game had taken the entire country by storm, and the number of users had surpassed 5 million. It dominated the recommendation charts across major gaming platforms, especially securing the top spot on the monthly leaderboard of TaterGames. What made it even more impressive was that all of this was achieved purely through organic player-driven downloads, with no external promotions. The game not only sparked heated discussions among the players but also made waves in the industry. Advertisers flocked to Drakengard Games to discuss collaboration opportunities, while game developers scrambled to analyze the secret behind its success. Even venture capital firms began taking notice of this rising startup, hoping to invest in it. Meanwhile, the game recommendation platforms that had once rejected Panzer Saga were now filled with regret. They eagerly reached out to Patrick, hoping to establish a partnership with Drakengard Games. But Patrick turned them all down. Among the biggest winners from this success was none other than TaterGames. Thanks to Isla's keen foresight, the company raked in massive profits. However, this was still just a casual game. After only a month of success and after factoring in various taxes and revenue shares, Drakengard Games had accumulated a net profit of $2 million. This was an outcome that Earl and Patrick could hardly believe. They had imagined various possibilities, but they had never dared to dream that such a low-cost game could generate such immense returns. That evening, Earl and Patrick celebrated at a luxurious 5-star hotel in Alnugo, drinking to their heart's content until they were completely wasted. Patrick chose to unwind with an escort after drinking, while Earl opted to return to school and enjoy a moment of peace. With the success of Panzer Saga, Earl began contemplating the company's future. As more venture capital firms turned their attention to the startup, Drakengard Games was on the brink of formalization and expansion. Plans for hiring new employees and broadening their business scope were officially set in motion. Amidst Drakengard Games' meteoric rise, the semi-finals of the Youth Vocal Showcase were also underway. Previously, Luca had frequently sought Earl's guidance on music, and Earl had generously shared his knowledge, benefiting Luca immensely. In the fiercely competitive semi-finals, Luca secured second place with his impressive performance and advanced to the finals. However, the first-place contestant, Nathaniel, remained a controversial figure. Many believed that he lacked the ability to outshine Luca, yet he consistently ranked higher, sparking heated debates and speculation online. As time passed and spring arrived, Bianca finally called Earl again. "Earl, regarding the campus radio station, what's your decision?" She had previously invited Earl to join, but he had assumed she was joking. With his busy schedule at the company, he had gradually forgotten about it. To his surprise, Bianca had been serious about the plan and was now inviting him for an interview at the campus radio station. At the same time, Belle, whom Earl had almost forgotten about, also called. She asked, "Big Bun, where are you? I'm coming to find you." Earl rejected her outright, saying, "I'm sorry, but I'm out right now and can't meet up with you." With that, he decided to return to his dorm and get some sleep. But in the middle of his nap, he suddenly felt an itch on his nose. When he opened his eyes, he saw a charming young woman teasing his nose with a foxtail grass. Earl frowned and asked, "How did you get in?" Chapter 112. Belle tossed away the foxtail grass and pouted as she straightened her back. "Big Bun, if I don't come looking for you, would you just never see me again? And you even lied. You said you were out when you were actually just napping in the dorm." She was dressed in sneakers and a tight-fitting sports outfit that accentuated her perfect figure. Every movement radiated energy and vitality, making her hard to resist. Despite the tempting sight before him, Earl remained clear-headed. "What do you want?" Belle was dissatisfied with his cold attitude and pouted again. "Big Bun, can't you treat me a little better? If you were just a bit nicer to me, who knows? Maybe I'd fall for you." She leaned in closer, revealing a hint of fair skin, striking an incredibly alluring pose. But Earl had long seen through her tricks and replied flatly, "If you've got nothing important, stop bothering me. This made Belle grow anxious. Big Bun, do you remember what I said during the New Year? My dad is coming to school. He wants to meet you. Earl paused. Meet me, Belle explained. Didn't I tell you over winter break? Someone spread a rumor that I got a boyfriend, and now my dad wants to meet him. Only then did Earl recall Belle mentioning this during the New Year, though he hadn't paid much attention back then. Now, it seemed she was serious. She really intended to use him as a stand-in. Earl shook his head helplessly. I'm not interested. Seeing his reaction, Belle immediately put on a pitiful expression. Please, Earl, I'm not trying to trick you. Just help me this once, okay? If you do, I'll grant you one request, anything within my power. Fair deal, right? Any other guy would have been swayed by her soft, ambiguous words, but Earl knew Belle was cunning and didn't take her offer seriously. He just wanted to get rid of her nonsense as soon as possible, so he replied impatiently, fine. But on one condition, after this, stop bothering me. Drakengard Games was now running smoothly, but the workload was heavy. Even though the team was growing and Patrick had taken on many responsibilities, Earl was still extremely busy. Not only did he have to oversee the continued development of Panzer Saga, fix countless bugs, and prepare for the next game, but every minute of his time was precious. To his surprise, Belle agreed to his demand without hesitation. She simply suggested they have a meal and discuss how to handle her father's visit. Earl didn't understand why she was making such a big deal out of it, but he nodded in agreement. Fine. Hearing his confirmation, Belle cheered and said, Yay. Big Bun, I knew you cared about me the most. Then, she boldly took Earl's hand and led him to a newly opened restaurant. Earl found the gesture too intimate and tried to pull his hand away, but Belle held on tightly, insisting, we need to warm up first, so we don't blow our cover later. A breeze swept through the street, making Belle shiver slightly. Earl noticed and silently took off his jacket, draping it over her shoulders. Belle's eyes flickered with a hint of shyness and joy, an unexpected warmth filled her heart. Chapter 113. After the two sat down, Belle began discussing how to handle her father's visit with Earl. However, she quickly realized that Earl was distracted. His gaze had been drawn to someone familiar inside the restaurant. Following his line of sight, Belle spotted two young couples seated not far away. Among them were two familiar faces, Anna and Queenie. Earl didn't want to run into them, so he deliberately looked away. But Queenie still noticed them and began whispering to her boyfriend and Anna. Belle smirked. Did you run into an old flame? Want to go over and say hi? Earl's voice was low and firm. No need. But Belle continued, see that guy next to Anna? That's her new boyfriend, Alex Shore. He comes from a well-off family, but he's not exactly a good person. I heard he used to borrow money from loan sharks to gamble. Earl remained silent. Whatever happened to Anna no longer had anything to do with him. At that moment, Queenie pointed at them while whispering something to Anna. Anna's face grew visibly pale. Alex also took notice of Earl. A shadow crossed his face, and suddenly, he stood up and walked toward them. Anna panicked and hurried to stop him. Alex, what are you doing? Come back. But Alex ignored her, even pulling her along with him. Come on, get close to me. Let your ex-boyfriend see how great your life is now. Anna obediently leaned on his shoulder, wanting Earl to see that she had found true love. As they reached Earl's table, Alex glanced at Earl before flashing what he thought was a charming smile at Belle. Hey, gorgeous, mind if I sit here? Before Belle could respond, Alex had already seated himself, right next to her. Belle frowned deeply, her tone cold and firm. Leave, you're not welcome here. Alex was irritated by her rejection. Then, a mocking smile curled at his lips. Fiery, aren't you? I like that. How about we be friends? Who the hell wants to be friends with you? Get lost. Belle rejected him without hesitation. She could be sweet and gentle around Earl, but when it came to shameless scumbags, she had no problem being ruthless. Alex's face darkened instantly, but knowing Belle wasn't someone to be messed with, he shifted his focus to Earl instead. I heard you used to pursue Anna. Earl looked up at him. What's your point? Alex smirked arrogantly. Listen up, Anna is my woman now. You're just some nobody, so stay away from her. Otherwise, don't blame me for what happens next. Anna found his words too harsh and tried to hold him back. Alex, let's just go. But Alex shook her off forcefully, his voice cold. What, you don't appreciate me standing up for you? Or, do you still have feelings for him? Anna's face turned even paler. She forced a smile. Alex, I only love you. Please don't be like this. Alex nodded. Good, keep it that way. Otherwise, I'll beat this loser to a pulp. At this, Belle finally snapped. Chapter 114. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you insult my boyfriend? If you don't get lost right now, I'll make you regret it. Belle snapped. Alex sneered. Come on, gorgeous. Drop the act. Everyone at your academy knows you're just toying with this guy's feelings. He's the only fool who actually believes it. Belle's face flushed red with anger. You shameless bastard, what nonsense are you spewing? Who said I was just playing around? Alex smirked coldly. Oh really? Then prove it. If you two are really dating, kiss him right here in front of everyone. Belle froze, her cheeks turning an even deeper shade of red. She stole a quick glance at Earl, only to see disbelief written all over his face. A sudden impulse surged within her. Without any hesitation, she threw her arms around Earl and kissed him passionately, right in front of the crowd. Earl was completely caught off guard. He had never expected Belle to actually kiss him in public. But soon, he was drawn in by her warmth and passion. Her soft lips moved boldly against his, exploring and teasing. The faint fragrance surrounding her, combined with her fiery enthusiasm, stirred something deep within him. For a moment, it felt as if he were floating on the clouds. The softness of her body, the intoxicating scent, the warmth of her embrace, everything about her made him lose himself. Belle, too, was completely immersed in the kiss. Her eyes shone with unmistakable affection for Earl. The world around them faded away, leaving only the two of them in each other's arms. She let out a soft whimper, pressing herself closer against him, her body trembling slightly as if savoring every second of their connection. Their tongues entwined, moving like two serpents locked in an intimate dance. In truth, ever since their first kiss, Belle had been obsessed with this feeling. More than anything, she loved the warmth and security of being in Earl's embrace. It felt like sinking into the softest bed in the world. She had never explicitly said it, but her body language had long given her feelings away. She wanted Earl to be bolder, to take the lead. But beautiful moments never last forever. The cheers and gasps of the onlookers finally brought Earl back to his senses. He gently pushed Belle away. Compared to Earl, who had quickly regained his composure, Belle was still lost in the moment. When Earl broke away, she instinctively tried to hold on, wrapping her arms around him tighter. Her eyes carried a hint of grievance and longing, as if blaming him for stopping too soon. You big idiot, Big Bun, how could you stop now? Who cares if people are watching? Keep going, Belle thought. Earl, now fully composed, shot a cold glance at Alex. His voice was calm but laced with authority. Are we done here? If you have nothing else to say, get lost. Belle, still holding onto Earl's waist, felt a rush of sweetness fill her heart. She turned to look at Anna, who stood there pale-faced, a triumphant glint flashing in Belle's eyes. Alex had originally intended to humiliate Earl, yet now he had been forced to see the public display of affection. Watching Belle, who was even more beautiful than Anna, snuggling into Earl's arms like a docile kitten, Alex clenched his teeth in fury. But in the end, all he could do was stomp his foot and storm off. Anna cast a final, wistful glance at Earl before silently following Alex. Earl and Belle, still holding hands, also left together. By now, the city lights had begun to twinkle, and the streets were alive with energy. But Belle had no interest in the noisy crowds. Right now, she only wanted to enjoy a quiet moment with Earl. She tightened her grip on his hand and looked at him with gentle, affectionate eyes. Big Bun, will you take a walk with me by the bridge? Chapter 115. Earl furrowed his brows, seemingly deep in thought. Seeing this, Belle pouted playfully. I'm feeling a little cold again, Big Bun. Can you hug me? Earl sighed helplessly. Belle, this game of ours needs to end. I don't have time to play these meaningless games with you anymore. You should go find a love that truly belongs to you. Hearing this, a flicker of sadness flashed through Belle's eyes, but she quickly masked it with a smile. Even now, you still think I'm just playing house with you? Earl remained silent. Belle let out a self-deprecating chuckle. But I haven't found the right person yet. Can't you just go along with me for a little while longer? You're so dense when it comes to romance. How are you ever going to chase after a girl in the future? What kind of woman would even fall for you? Do you really want to spend your whole life alone? Earl shook his head. He didn't want to continue this pointless game with Belle. He was afraid that the deeper he fell, the harder it would be to pull himself out. That's none of your concern. Once I help you deal with your father, we'll go our separate ways. Belle nodded slightly and gazed at Earl with deep emotion. Big Bun, tell me, if one day I really fall in love with you, will you still think I'm lying to you? Earl was caught off guard. Looking into her clear, glistening eyes, he saw a different kind of emotion, one that made him question if this beautiful girl had truly developed feelings for him. But he quickly snapped back to reality, recalling the words Belle had once said behind his back. He reminded himself not to fall for her sweet talk. The memory of her playful, mocking expression was still fresh in his mind, a stark contrast to the sincere girl standing before him now. Yet, remembering all the humiliation he had endured in the past, a surge of anger rose in Earl's heart. His voice was firm as he said, yes. Rather than waiting to be abandoned, he would rather end things first. At least that way, he could keep a shred of dignity. Belle burst into laughter, her tone laced with mockery. Well, at least you're self-aware. You know I'd never fall for you, so you're protecting your pride in advance. Don't worry. Unless the sun rises from the west, I'll never love you. After saying that, she turned away slightly, a barely perceptible trace of disappointment flashing through her eyes. As time passed and their game company continued to thrive, Drakengard Games had finally found solid footing. The company's staff grew steadily, and thanks to the overwhelming success of their hit game Panzer Saga, they were raking in massive profits, quickly becoming a rising star in the gaming industry. Because of this, both Patrick and Earl received invitations to a various CEO summit held in Alnugo during the summer. Meanwhile, investors in the financial sector had started approaching Patrick, expressing high hopes for Drakengard Games' future and even offering large sums to purchase company shares. At the same time, the youth vocal showcase had finally reached its grand finale. Given the competition's massive influence, the finals had record-breaking viewership. The 8 remaining contestants would battle for the championship title, and the winner would achieve instant fame overnight. Luca, one of the frontrunners, had been in constant contact with Earl, discussing every detail of his performance in pursuit of perfection. Under Earl's meticulous guidance, Luca's expectations for himself grew higher and higher. However, his own skills often fell short of those expectations. In the end, he could only pin his hopes on Earl, relying on him for help. After half a month of revisions, Luca's song had fully embraced a distinct influence by soul. Time flew by, and at last, the long-awaited finals arrived. Luca, Faye, and the other 6 contestants gathered, ready to face their ultimate challenge. Meanwhile, back at Earl's dorm, it was buzzing with excitement. The room was packed with beer, soft drinks, and snacks, all laid out in preparation for the big night. Chapter 116. Whenever Luca had a competition, the nearby students would gather to cheer him on. Luca had become the pride of the entire dorm, the School of Finance, and even Alnugo University. The competition started promptly at 8 in the evening, and students from nearby dorms, including the ladies, eagerly crowded into the shared dorm room to watch the live stream. Miranda, Jenna, Anya, and Jessica were also there to cheer for Luca. Meanwhile, the absence of Anna and Queenie made the relationship between Joshua and Queenie seem even more complicated. As the clock struck 8, the highly anticipated finals officially began. Since the event was being broadcast nationwide and had an incredibly high viewership, the most influential host was specially invited, someone who had hosted many gala events, showing just how high the standards for this competition were. The competition was intense, gripping the audience's attention. The 8 contestants went through fierce battles in the preliminary rounds, cutting the number of participants by half in each round. Finally, only 2 reached the ultimate showdown. Although Faye regrettably stopped at the semi-finals, she accepted it with grace, believing that just making it to the finals was a huge honor. Luca, thanks to his strong abilities and Earl's behind-the-scenes support, advanced through every round. After more than an hour of suspenseful build-up, the long-awaited finals finally arrived. This was a battle of talent and connections. The showdown between Luca and Nathaniel attracted countless eyes. In this highly scrutinized environment, both contestants faced immense pressure. As the final round began, the 2 talented artists stepped onto the stage. Luca performed the song, Green Shade, that Earl had carefully revised for him. The song was full of campus charm, stirring emotions and resonating with everyone. Whether they were current students or those who had once experienced youthful days, the song deeply moved everyone, evoking countless fond memories of youth. At that moment, Luca's performance on stage reached its peak, comparable to the top 3 songs in the Billboard Hot 100 recently. When Luca finished his performance, the entire hall erupted into enthusiastic applause. The audience cheered, giving a thumbs up in admiration for the touching song. The judges were also deeply moved by the song, offering high praise. This song was undoubtedly one of the highest quality works of the competition so far. Only in such a prestigious event, with a performer as talented as Luca, could such a song be created. Viewers both on television and online flooded the comment sections with praise. This song is so beautiful. It reminds me of my youthful years. It's really amazing. It takes me back to my old lover. I'm in tears. It's so touching. This song is so good. If Luca doesn't win, then this is rigged. However, when Nathaniel performed as the final contestant, he appeared extremely nervous and nearly stumbled. The song he had carefully prepared suffered due to his nerves, and his pitch was off, with the high notes particularly out of tune. The audience was disappointed with Nathaniel's performance and flooded the comments section with disapproval. How did he make it to the finals with this level of performance? There must be something fishy going on. If Luca doesn't win, it's an insult to the entire nation. We hope to see fairness and justice this time. In reality, Nathaniel did have certain connections, which was one reason the judges always gave him high scores. But his performance this time was so poor that even the judges themselves felt embarrassed to award him high scores. If they did, it would be an insult to everyone watching the show. Chapter 117. In the end, the judges gave Nathaniel a score that allowed him to keep his dignity, but there was still a clear gap compared to Luca's score. However, the battle for the championship wasn't just about the final performance. It was based on the total score from all the previous rounds. The final total score would determine who would claim the championship title. In the tense moment of announcing the total score, viewers at home, both on TV and computer screens, clenched their fists, hearts racing with anticipation. Isaac couldn't help but shout angrily from in front of the TV, "I swear, if Luca doesn't win, the music industry is truly doomed." Samuel silently prayed, beads of sweat forming on his palms. Earl, however, remained unusually calm. To him, as long as Luca had given his best, the result didn't matter. From the moment Luca's final song stirred the crowd, it was clear he had already succeeded. The camera shifted to the stage, where both finalists, Luca and Nathaniel, wore expressions filled with nervousness. They stared intently at the huge screen, waiting for the result. The judges below the stage were also anxiously awaiting the final result. Finally, the host lightened the atmosphere with a humorous remark and, with a steady tone, announced, "The judges of the Youth Vocal Showcase have determined its ultimate winner, the champion. Now, I announce that the winner is Luca Lazaro from Alnugo University. Congratulations to him." The applause was thunderous, as if it might flip the entire venue over. The camera switched to display the total score comparison, showing that Luca had narrowly won with a score of 108 to 107, edging out Nathaniel to claim the championship. The result was incredibly close, almost to the point where Luca could have lost the competition with just a slight mistake. In the footage, along with the congratulations to Luca, there were also some doubts and criticisms about the results. However, since Luca had ultimately won, these negative voices didn't dominate the conversation. Instead, there were more well wishes and affirmations for Luca. A rising star in the music industry was beginning to shine. Back in the dorm, the applause was equally enthusiastic. Jessica excitedly shouted, "Luca, I love you. You're really so handsome." Anya said with admiration, "He's really amazing, I totally admire him." Miranda turned to Isaac and said, "Isaac, if you could have even half of Luca's abilities, I'd be completely satisfied." Isaac awkwardly smiled, knowing that Miranda was joking. Even Joshua and Ronnie felt the growing gap between them and Luca. There would always be some geniuses who sprout wings and soar into the clouds, while ordinary people spend their entire lives trying and never catch up. The camera shifted back to Luca and Nathaniel. Luca was overjoyed. Winning the championship was undoubtedly the greatest recognition for him. But more importantly, the original song he had performed live had gone viral, and his future singing career was now wide open. Nathaniel, on the other hand, looked like he had been struck down. But even after losing, he walked over and gave Luca a friendly hug. The host then handed Luca the microphone to deliver his acceptance speech. Luca took the microphone, his face glowing with excitement. He first thanked his parents, teachers, leaders, classmates, and the caretakers in the dorm. But at the end, he specifically mentioned one person, someone who was crucial to him. Standing on stage, Luca held the microphone and spoke emotionally. Chapter 118. Today, I've thanked so many people, but there's one person I must specifically thank, and that's my college roommate. Due to his request, I can't reveal his name, but I want to say that he's the person I admire most in my life. You may not believe it, but he's truly talented in music, perhaps even more so than I am. Yet, he's willing to stay in the background. Throughout this journey, he has been silently supporting me. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here today. In my eyes, he's the true, groundbreaking genius. Although he's not here with us, I still want to express my deepest gratitude to him. As Luca spoke these words, his eyes glistened with tears of gratitude. No one knew better than Luca how important Earl was to him. Without Earl's support and guidance, Luca would never have made it this far. He had always been grateful for Earl's talent and efforts, and he kept that gratitude deep within his heart. While the audience might have seen it as just polite words, the roommates watching on TV were completely stirred. Apart from Luca, Joshua, Samuel, Isaac, Ronnie, and Earl were also thrust into the spotlight. Everyone started speculating who could be the person Luca was thanking. Whenever Luca consulted Earl over the phone, Earl always made the calls in private, keeping everything so secretive that the other four roommates had no clue. They all guessed, but couldn't find any answers. At first, everyone assumed it was Earl, but when he denied it with a confused look, they stopped pressing further. After fruitless questioning, the classmates were left disappointed. Who was this incredibly talented person who had helped Luca? It remained an unsolved mystery until Luca returned. All good things must come to an end, and so the glamorous event eventually concluded. Faye, who had placed 8th in the finals, rode back to the hotel with Luca. Both were contestants from Alnugo, and now that the final competition had ended, they planned to head back to Alnugo the next day. At that moment, the night sky in the city sparkled with stars, and the weather was exceptionally clear. Luca and Faye were in high spirits, just like the clear sky above them. Luca went to great lengths to avoid the reporters and fans waiting outside, hastily escaping back to the bus, finally letting out a sigh of relief. On the bus, Faye's mentor, Donald, and the dean of the music college, Zoe, began giving Luca detailed advice. Given that Luca had made history by winning the youth vocal showcase and was now gaining widespread attention online, they treated him with much more respect. They likely foresaw that one day, Luca's future would outshine theirs in the music industry. Once the bus started moving, the two mentors leaned back in their seats and fell asleep. At this time, Faye took the initiative to sit next to Luca, first congratulating him, then curiously asking, "Luca, what you said on stage, about thanking your roommate, was that all true?" Luca nodded and replied, "Of course it's true. I even wanted to introduce him to you. But unfortunately, I missed the chance." "Oh." Faye looked at Luca in confusion, noticing that his expression was incredibly serious. And when he spoke about this roommate, there was even a hint of admiration in his eyes. Faye, still curious, asked, "So, can you tell me what kind of person he is? I'm really curious. Someone who can make you praise him like this must have extraordinary talent, right?" Luca nodded seriously. "To me, he's the real genius." Luca would never forget how Earl had guided him with such care and personally taught him during the Calisota regional finals. With a sense of emotion, Luca said, "He's not only incredibly talented, but also someone who is both my mentor and my friend. Without his help, I wouldn't have achieved what I have today." Faye was deeply shocked after hearing this. Knowing Luca's own remarkable talent, she became even more intrigued by this mysterious person. It seemed Alnugo University really was a place full of hidden talent. Who could this person be, who even the music prince willingly bowed to in admiration? But when she saw that Luca had closed his eyes to rest, she decided not to press him further. Still, her thoughts wandered quietly, drifting off into contemplation. Chapter 119. Meanwhile, Drakengard Games was steadily developing. Panzer Saga continued to bring substantial profits to Drakengard Games. However, Patrick and Earl realized that, as a small game, Panzer Saga's ability to generate revenue was far inferior to large-scale online games. As time passed and the initial excitement faded, they knew that if Drakengard Games could not continuously develop new trending games, it would soon be eliminated from the market. They understood that in order to secure a position in the gaming industry, Drakengard Games needed to have a signature game, a game that could last and remain popular for a long time. Though Panzer Saga had achieved success, it was still far from being a powerhouse game that could generate constant revenue and draw attention. Fortunately, the success of Panzer Saga had given Drakengard Games its first substantial funding. But deciding to develop a large-scale game would require an enormous investment, with very high risks involved. Although many venture capitalists were willing to invest in Drakengard Games, their terms were extremely harsh. Some even demanded 80% ownership of Drakengard Games after investing millions or proposed terms that would put the company in impossible situations. This was clearly unacceptable to Earl and Patrick. Earl realized that while Drakengard Games had succeeded with Panzer Saga, investors generally viewed this as a fluke. Many companies either succeeded by a stroke of luck or through capitalizing on a trend, but such success was often unsustainable. Many people mistook this temporary success for their own ability, blindly investing, which ultimately led to the company's collapse. Therefore, when deciding whether to develop a large-scale game, Earl and Patrick had to be cautious. Patrick suggested a more conservative approach, using the existing funds to release a sequel, Panzer Saga 2, to ensure continued profits. Earl didn't fully agree with Patrick's suggestion. He believed that besides upgrading Panzer Saga, they should also develop a new small game. At the same time, Earl planned to recruit more gaming talent and form a completely new large team, focusing on the development of a big game. Earl's ambitions were not to be underestimated. He wasn't satisfied with the status quo. In this age of transformation, those who didn't move forward would fall behind. Only through striving for progress could they achieve success. But Patrick was more reserved about Earl's proposal. Drakengard Games was still small, and even with Panzer Saga as a cash cow, the risks of operating in 3 areas were still huge. Patrick favored a conservative strategy and even considered acting as an agent for games from other international companies to save on development costs. But after some reflection, Patrick realized this wasn't a long-term solution. The high fees of acting as an agent would be a heavy burden for Drakengard Games, and there was also the significant risk involved. Even if successful, they would still be controlled by others. Ultimately, there was no foolproof plan. To succeed, risks had to be taken. Encouraged by Earl, Patrick began thinking about how to take Drakengard Games to the next level. Just as their plans were about to be put into action, Drakengard Games faced a shortage of funds. However, with the updates and upgrades to Panzer Saga, the game experienced another explosive growth, and revenues began to rise steadily. This helped to resolve the funding issues. At the same time, Luca became a campus celebrity after returning. Luca's talent and charm attracted the attention of many girls. It wasn't uncommon for girls to wait around his dormitory, and some even went to extreme lengths to pursue him. Love letters were often stored in boxes. Looking at these letters, Samuel sighed, saying, "The rich live lavishly while the poor freeze to death on the streets," while munching on the large piece of meat that the girls had purposely offered to him to get closer to Luca. "This bacon is so delicious." One sunny morning, Earl woke up to find only Samuel left in the dorm, looking for a part-time job online. As Earl prepared to go downstairs for breakfast, he heard a knock on the door. Earl opened the door, and a delicate fragrance wafted in. Standing before him was a girl who looked like a hidden orchid, radiating elegance. She had a warm and beautiful smile on her face. "Earl, hello, Bianca." Earl was slightly startled by her sudden appearance. At this moment, Bianca seemed to have deliberately dressed up, wearing a dress that highlighted her curvaceous figure. As the weather grew warmer, she wasn't wearing stockings, and her long, fair legs were fully exposed before Earl's eyes. She seemed to embody all of Earl's fantasies about beautiful girls. Chapter 120. Although Bianca's shoes weren't particularly high, she was naturally beautiful and tall, and even a slight height difference was enough to display her charm in a captivating way, causing Earl's heart to involuntarily race. With her already stunning looks and gentle smile, she appeared even more graceful and noble. When Bianca saw the stunned look in Earl's eyes, her face flushed slightly. She parted her red lips, revealing an enchanting curve as she asked, "Earl, do you have some free time? I've already reported your name to the radio station. The student council would like to arrange an interview for you." Earl suddenly remembered that the university was recruiting male broadcasters and was slightly surprised. "Do I still need to do an interview?" Bianca, thinking Earl might be reluctant, gently bit her red lip. Her tone became somewhat cautious as she asked, "It's just a simple interview. Are you unwilling?" "Well, all right." Although Earl hesitated a bit, he worried that Bianca might think he lacked confidence. Besides, working with her at the radio station was something he had always dreamed of. "Let's go then." Upon hearing Earl's agreement, Bianca's face lit up with joy. Just as they were about to leave, there was another knock on the door. "Come in," Earl said. The door opened gently, and a bald, chubby man walked in. After scanning the room, he greeted Earl enthusiastically. "Excuse me, what's your name?" Earl had never seen this person before, so he asked, a bit confused, "Who are you?" "I'm Felix Chambers from Starlight Entertainment. I'd like to ask if Luca is staying in this dorm. The one who won the championship in the Calisota Youth Vocal Showcase," Felix said, handing over a business card. Earl and Bianca both looked at each other in surprise. This man was actually the general manager of Starlight Entertainment. Starlight Entertainment was a renowned company in the domestic entertainment industry, known for signing countless music talents and superstars. They never imagined that such a big player in the industry was already paying attention to Luca. "Yes, he stays in this dorm. But he's not here right now," Earl answered. The strength of Starlight Entertainment couldn't be underestimated. If Luca could sign with such a company, it would undoubtedly be a huge boost to his future career. "Well, I'll wait for him then," Felix said as he began to look around the dorm. He first asked about Luca's desk, but then stopped in front of Earl's desk, staring at it. "Excuse me, whose desk is this?" Felix seemed particularly interested in Earl's desk. "Is there something wrong?" Earl asked, not directly answering that it was his desk. But Felix quickly guessed it from Earl's tone and expression. "Is this your desk?" When Earl didn't respond, Felix's eyes lit up with a strange delight. He took a piece of paper out of his pocket, seemed to confirm something, and then extended both hands to shake Earl's, his tone becoming more excited. "Nice to meet you. I've been looking for you everywhere, Mr. Soul."